All right, I'm gonna try to finish the video for tomorrow that I've been alluding to for the past couple of days. I just haven't really been. It's a good way of saying it. I've had writer's block, where every time I try to write the script, I just sort of can't make the words go on the paper, or I guess the Google Doc. Um, but because we're only halfway through today, I could probably squeeze in enough attention to it to get the ball rolling. And then if it's out tomorrow, I'll be able to post it after editing it tonight. And again, if I don't finish it tonight, I'll just put it up at some other point. It will come out this week. I just need to make sure the script is where I'd like it to be, so I can get my 10 views. Oh, this website is such a aggravating contraption. I mean, I sometimes I've sat back and just kind of really gone crazy with this stuff in the sense that a lot of times when you're doing content, you just like sort of pray a little bit, like, oh, I hope this gets viewed. But you know how people are; they don't check things out. Anyways, let's start with this goofy news because there's a lot of nonsense to discuss. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden on Monday blamed President Trump for escalating violence at protests in cities across the country while condemning the destructive elements of the racial justice demonstrations that he said are counterproductive to the cause. Speaking from a steel mill in Pittsburgh, Biden laid the blame for the civil unrest in the country squarely on Trump, saying the president has inflamed tensions that have been roiling rather, since the police killing of George Floyd in May. This president long ago forfeited any moral leadership in this country, Biden said. He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it. The former vice president, under pressure from Trump and some Democrats to address the destructive elements of the protests that have left some cities in ruin, forcefully condemned rioting and looting and pressed for calm. I wanted to be very clear about all of this. Rioting is not protesting, Biden said. Looting is not protesting. Setting fires is not protesting. None of this is protesting. It's lawlessness, plain and simple. And those who do it should be prosecuted. Violence will not bring change. It will only bring destruction. It's wrong in every way. It divides instead of unites. With 64 days to go until the election, the campaigns have become consumed by the debate about racial justice, police reforms, peaceful demonstrations, riots, and which candidate is best equipped to heal the nation's racial divide while keeping the public safe. Also, in 64 days, I'm not voting for either of these clowns. Spoiler alert. Biden's speech comes amid a blistering partisan fight over who is to blame for escalating incidents of violence and destruction from protests that have broken out across the country following Floyd's death and more recently the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kanoha, Wisconsin. Trump has accused elected officials in Democratic-run cities such as Seattle, Kenosha, and Portland, Oregon, of allowing criminals to run roughshod and destroy their cities because they're afraid of standing up to racial justice protesters. I don't remember any of the protesters actually saying we support people having their homes burglarized and whatnot, but whatever. You know me, you know my heart. Unfortunately, I do, Biden said. You know my story. Ask yourself, do I look like a radical socialist with a soft spot for rioters? Really? I want a safe America, safe from COVID, safe from crime and looting, safe from racially motivated crime and violence, safe from bad cops. Let me be crystal clear, safe from 4 more years of Donald Trump. Wow, what a mic drop line. I love how he's basically insinuating that if you are because I've referred to myself as a socialist before, if you're a socialist, you automatically have a soft spot for rioters. That's really nuts. And for some reason, Pelosi's showing up on my screen. I gotta make sure I get rid of that. Yeah, that's enough of that story. So he gave this big speech condemning Trump and basically patting himself on the back. I'm not like those radical socialists who support these rioters and have that soft spot for them. Still can't believe it's only what 2 full months before we get the election. I have to keep reminding myself that we're on the last day of August. This felt like the never ending month. Like the last 2 months has been really goofy in terms of stuff on here. Like between getting stabbed in the back, uh, and then having the situation with the cast for the stuff I do, and then getting demonetized, and then going on YouTube's little partnership crap and trying to get it renewed, and they're like giving me the runaround. I'm really glad to see this month go. This whole year has been just garbage, and everybody knows it. All right, next story. National LGBT Chamber of Commerce endorses Biden. No, I'm gonna stay away from that. That's just them reading off some more grandstanding stuff about he's been such an ally of LGBT people as he was part of an administration that for 50% of it, the person in charge didn't even want to acknowledge that they should have same-sex marriage laws. Because I remember they like to say, "Oh, he was progressive on that issue. He came out before Obama and Hillary." Like, yeah, but he came out what 6, 7 years ago after it already been legal in multiple states. Like, really, the only people that should get any defense in terms of like really supporting LGBT stuff prior to 2015 are Bernie and maybe like two or three other people. Whoever voted against the Defense of Marriage Act from '96, those are the people who should get. So I know one of them was Ted Kennedy, for example. But the rest of these clowns, oh look, I'm now. Oh, and Newsom, the current governor of California, because when he was mayor of Sacramento, he was supporting it. He was one of the first mayors of a major city, just one of the first major politicians to come out and be really forceful about backing gay rights. But the rest of these people, they all waited until the Supreme Court did their ruling or a little bit before it to come out and now suddenly have seen the error of their ways. Oh, here's Pompeo. President Trump is weighing restricting Chinese students from studying in the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in an interview Monday, adding that the administration is likely to announce new actions against Beijing in the coming weeks and months. The secretary made his remarks during an interview with WMAL's Morning on the Mall radio show hosted by Vince Cago, whatever these people's names are. He was responding to a question over the administration's efforts to crack down on Chinese nationals on student visas and in academic research positions charged with spying for the government in Beijing. I don't want to get in front of the decisions that the president is evaluating, Pompeo said when asked if it would be quicker to just not let any more Chinese students come into the United States for some period of time. Look, not every Chinese student who is here is working on behalf or at least at the behest of the direction of the Chinese Communist Party, but it's something President Trump has taken a serious look at, Pompeo responded. I think you'll see more to follow in the coming weeks and months, the secretary said. A Chinese national conducting research at the University of Virginia was arrested on Friday on federal charges that included an attempt to steal trade secrets and computer intrusion. The arrest is the latest example of an increasing number of cases brought forth by federal law enforcement against Chinese nationals allegedly exploiting their positions in academia to commit economic espionage against the United States. So basically what this is a couple of clowns from China are doing things that are antagonistic to America economically. So we're going to, instead of rooting out the people who are doing this, we're going to just ban everybody that comes from China. We're going to take the whole group of Chinese people who they admit are not all working for the screwed up government over there. And they're going to punish every single person that comes from over there, basically. It happens to be here as a student. And then they wonder why people say they're bigoted. Like they're really trying to make it sound like if you come from China, you're like part of the new Al Qaeda. It's like you had a couple of clowns who I mean, we've had an economic war with China for a long time, so it's not really surprising some of them would try to do that. But you have all these students over here, and you really think this is all part of a campaign by the Chinese government where they're like getting people's numbers and names and saying, "You go over there and make sure you get U.S. secrets." It's ridiculous. And he's actually now admitted that Trump is punishing these students from coming to America. So if you're from China, you can't. And this actually, even if it seems kind of, in my opinion, a little insane, it's not that far fetched when you remember that Trump banned 7 Muslim majority countries from having their citizens enter legally, which is why people were calling him Islamophobic. So it's entirely possible that he would just take a region or some country and say, I know the majority of people from there don't act this way, but to hell with all of you. I don't know. The whole thing is just really ridiculous. And the U.S. China antagonism is just it seems never ending. Two world superpowers that have one of them is they're screwed up with China, but they're like peaceful. They're not actually, like I said, they haven't been in a war in 40 years. And then America is this like very antagonistic country toward other countries, and then they get surprised when they have what's a good way of saying it? People start to not believe their good intentions. Oh, it's AJ Envoy dropping rhymes. He tried to get my attention 7 times. I know that sounds like a lot. 3 of those times were on streams. He feels real bad that he got caught. Might do it again, probably not. He's not here to make pretenses. He's here to redeem his offenses. Let me see what's here. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is the favorite among voters who cast their ballots for Libertarian Gary Johnson or Green Party nominee Jill Stein in the 2016 election, according to a polling analysis from NBC News. Of the 215 voters interviewed for NBC News/Wall Street Journal polls this year, who said they supported either Johnson or Stein in 2016, 47% said they will vote for President Trump, according to the NBC News analysts. 47% said they would vote for Biden, and then 20% said they would vote for Trump. I got it mixed up. There's a little line there that I skimmed over. This is actually a very bad poll because if you remember, one of the things Democrats do to people who don't vote for their candidates is that they say, you supported a third party person who had no chance of winning, and therefore you handed the election to Trump. So the fact that these people who are claiming they voted for third party candidates, a majority of them are saying they would have voted, they're inclined to support Biden, goes into that narrative of the third party people screw up the Democrats, even though, like I said, Clinton got 3 million more votes than Trump, she just didn't get it in the right places. So if anyone's to blame for her losing, it should be her, but whatever. Blame the people that didn't vote for her. We're gonna keep playing that game over and over and over again. Like I've never seen a candidate lose and then have the whole world, or at least a very big portion of people, try to get together and make the people who didn't vote for her seem like a complete demon. Really crazy. Oh, this is actually kind of, it's not funny, haha, but it is kind of creepy. The late Herman Cain's Twitter account, now supervised by family and friends, tweeted Sunday that the coronavirus, which killed Cain in July, is not as deadly as the mainstream media made it out to be. The tweet was later deleted, but the account tweeted other messages questioning the risk of the coronavirus, which has now infected more than 6 million people in the United States and killed more than 182,000, including Cain, a former Republican presidential candidate. It looks like the virus is not as deadly as the mainstream media first made it out to be, Kane's account tweeted according to reported screenshots of the since deleted post. Lots of people pointing out the irony in this now deleted Herman Cain tweet. So some broad said. Uh, this deleted tweet was sent along with the link to a story published by the Western Journal on Sunday, reporting that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that 94% of cases of those who died from COVID-19 had underlying conditions. Cain's account tweeted Monday a link to a post on the Herman Cain's website, written by the website editor Dan Calabrese, claiming that the second wave of the virus hasn't come close to the original spike and that it isn't showing signs it will. The summer second wave, if that's what it was, never got near the severity of the initial wave, and it already seems to be mostly on the wane, Calabrese wrote in the post. This was very ironic. So Cain's family is using his Twitter, which nobody should be using anymore, in my opinion, because he's deceased, but they're using his Twitter to peddle a position of the virus not being as deadly as people are making it seem on an account formerly owned by a man who died of the virus that they're claiming is not as deadly as they're making it out to be. That's like me dying of cancer, and then my little brother starts making videos on this channel. He's like, well, I guess cancer's not that bad. Oh my God. Every single tweet on that account for the last month has come from a group of people who are affiliated with Cain, but too cowardly to make their own accounts. So they have to use his former account to get. Oh my God, it's just. The irony is not lost on anyone, and I don't blame them for getting rid of that tweet, even though everybody went and screenshot it anyway. There's no way in hell you can write something like that without not laughing. Oh, this is funny. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden leads President Trump by nearly 6 points among active duty troops, according to a new Military Times poll released on Monday, suggesting that the president's support may be eroding among a group he sees as part of his political base. The poll, conducted in partnership with the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University, with participants chosen from Military Times subscribers, showed Biden garnering 43% support among active duty service members to Trump's 37%. By comparison, a similar poll from October 2016 showed Trump leading then Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton by roughly 20 points among military voters. Trump and his allies have long boasted of the president's strong support among military voters given defense budget increases during his tenure in the White House. But the Military Times poll, fielded between late July and early August, suggests that his support among those veterans may be waning. Trump's favorability among active duty troops is now underwater, with roughly 47% reporting an unfavorable view of the president and about 38% reporting a favorable view. The poll shows a notable difference in perception of the president between officers and enlisted troops. Nearly 60% of officers reported an unfavorable view of Trump compared to 47% of enlisted members. The reason this is interesting to me is because, well, underwater is the term they use. You're putting it in quotation marks. It's when your favorability is negative. It's minus. It's like if I have a video where there's more down votes than up votes. It's underwater. Or they call it upside down. No, the reason this is funny is because he was counting on those military increases to make him seem great or whatever. And this is the same person who, so one of the things Trump bragged about was that when he had the 717 billion military budget increase, that it was the first pay raise for troops in over 10 years, and it was only by 2%. And a lot of people wanted them to get more. But he would just say it's the first increase in 10 years to ignore the fact that people basically just were not getting paid that much more. Like, it's a deceptive practice. It's kind of like with the First Step Act, where it was supposed to be the first of many changes to the criminal justice system, which is why both parties, except for like 12 people, voted for it. And then after it gets passed, instead of continuing further with it, they just say, "Oh, big criminal justice reform." They act as if this first step was all the steps, that it was the complete transformation of the system, as opposed to it being one step forward, which is why it's called First Step Back. Oh my God. Now I remember his supporters on Twitter, they were like, Trump has rebuilt the military. I'm like, listen, he's doing the exact same thing Obama did, where they keep bumping the budget up, and then they tell you about how doing this is going to help them secure victory or whatever. But every year, you bomb the same 7 countries. If I need to list them again, I will. In Obama's last, 2 years, 7 countries we bombed. All of Trump's 4 years, 7 countries we've bombed. So it's really weird where they always are able to use that excuse in their rhetoric of, we're going to secure victory if you just give us $100 billion more. And the military members are sick of fighting all those conflicts. You know, they may be enlisted, but the coins are not going to helping them. They're just a bunch of crap that these defense contractors are able to use to get more money off of the larger mass production of the weapons that are used overseas in conflicts that, again, show no sign of ending. I just found your video about women yesterday. I have a bunch of videos about women. You have to be more specific. I mean, very rarely when I discuss something is it usually just one time. Let me see. Instead of making changes, they raise their hands up and give themselves a pat on the back without finishing a job and changing the system. Well, their only change to the system is to keep increasing a budget that has shown no signs of being inefficient in terms of allowing them to keep screwing with these 7 different countries. So when they did the 100 billion increase, what was that last year? It's like 800 billion now. We were bombing Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Pakistan, Syria, Somalia, and Yemen. And after they do the increase, we're still bombing Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan. You know, all the same countries at the same rate. You see no change year after year, except they say, we're going to take some troops out of here, and they take them out of there, and then they bring them back a year or two later. They play the yo-yo game. And again, because people don't follow this stuff regularly, they're not able to remember that the same thing happens year after year. No, it doesn't boggle my mind. I mean, depending on which country you're referring to, there's a specific reason. Like, they screw with Iran all the time, referring to the U.S. because we're all buddy with Israel, and Iran's their arch nemesis. Iran is the Batman to Israel's Joker. So we have to we side with our buddy. And then we harass China because, again, they're catching up to us, and we're the 2 biggest, superpowers or whatever. So That's just the economic thing. But we can't go to war with them because they're pacifists. Like they haven't been to war in any recent period. Yeah, this God, what is that? 3 stories at this point. Let's see what else is here. I think is that it? There's obviously more stories. I'm trying to find something I'm actually interested in. Uh, let's see. Let me refresh the page. Oh, this is kind of morbid. Nearly 70% of the 1.6 billion in coronavirus stimulus payments that were sent to dead people has been recovered. A Treasury Department official told the Government Accountability Office. The Treasury official's comment was included in the GAO report published on Monday about the federal response to the coronavirus pandemic. We were unable to verify that amount by the time we finalized our work on this report, GAO said in its report. We are working with Treasury to determine the number of payments sent to decedents that have been recovered. By the way, just one other thing to point out: that 1 billion they gave for the virus relief, if you can even call it that, isn't even 1% of what they give to the military. Because remember, they've had 700 billion budgets, they've had 800 billion budgets. So the amount they gave, that 1 billion isn't even, it's like 0.01%, like even smaller than 1%, just whatever way you can divide that even lower. It's the same thing with the military. When Trump banned trans people from serving in the military, uh, there were a lot of people who forgot the fact that less than 1% of all Americans are actively serving. So if you have such a slither of people as of your population willing to participate in the military, you're either going to start drafting or you're going to accept anyone you can who meets the requirements. I've just never seen people where they get less than 1% of something and they choose to be picky about who can join. They'll spend damn near 99% more fighting banana wars, but to help people during a virus, we're not going to provide the funds. Can't say I'm surprised actually. And I have this relative that keeps calling me and asking me, when am I getting another stimulus check? When am I getting another stimulus check? I keep explaining to them that Congress is out of session, or at least it was anyway. It's about to go back. But when they're out of session, that means they're not working on anything, and you'll just have to make ends meet with what they gave you several months back. There's just a hell of a year. Like you get this virus, right? And it lays off people, to where a bunch of people are unemployed, like record levels. And then you have a government that gives you so little to deal with this new public health crisis. So your choices are you either die from the virus or you're unemployed and you get a little itty bit amount of relief that you have to live off for several months. And then if you're alive past the end of this year, you might get kicked out of your house. So you either get killed by the virus or you live long enough to get screwed over by your own government. What a terrific set of options. Because we're getting to the point where the was it the debt relief where they were freezing payments, where that's about to expire. So we'll start seeing massive amounts of people be kicked out, and then that'll spread the virus even more because when you don't have anywhere to stay, you can't self quarantine. It's just a really bad set of options all around. And again, I don't really understand what this game is where you try to sit people down and you say, this is a problem with both parties. Because remember, only one representative, which was Massey from Kentucky, Republican, he voted against this because he said it was a trap where they give you a little bit to lure you into the trap, this 1,000, right? And then they squish you by all of the things they're not going to do after giving you this tiny bit of relief. And people are going to have to pay for it, unfortunately. I just am amazed sometimes by what members of the House and Senate like. That's why I started covering. I cover senators more than Trump himself because they're actively doing things that are going underreported, and people just kind of brush it off and don't pay attention. Like even if with McConnell the hiring of Sandman wasn't that big of a deal, he is just as culpable for the virus. Not having proper relief distributed among Americans for it as Pelosi is. Remember, he's one of the two most powerful members of Congress. Him and Pelosi run both chambers of Congress, which is the House and Senate. And to Pelosi's credit, and I really can't stand that fossilized tag, but the House has passed multiple different bills regarding just not just virus funding, but other things as well. And McConnell is such a pussy that he won't let it come up for a vote. So they can pass 100 different coronavirus relief packages, but if McConnell doesn't bring it up for a vote in the Senate, it gets screwed over. And he's shown this with election security. He's done this with multiple other issues in the past, but because it doesn't get reported, people don't care. Have you ever thought about making an independent blog/journalist site? I would if more than two people would click on it. That's the kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, it's out there to actually use it. I just kind of said hell with it. It's the same thing with Twitch, where if you get three people watching you on YouTube, you're going to get none watching you on there. Because I've seen some people on YouTube where they have like 500, 800 people watching them. And then when they go over to Twitch, it's like 10 or 11. I knew one guy on Twitter who has, on YouTube, he has 1 million subs. And he got this pretty recently. Like in the last 2 months, he's just increased massively because he puts out some pretty decent videos about not what I would cover, but just other stuff as well. And he on Twitter, he only has 20,000 followers, which is not small, but it is small for someone with 1 million subs on. Like, where did they go? So yeah, if there was if there was a surefire way to get people to engage with that website, I would consider making it. But as things stand, I'm gonna stay away from trying to expand to other websites. Let's see what else is here. Oh, Envoy wrote something. Yeah, it's crazy how you can have a huge fan base on one site, not the other. Well, a lot of it has to do with just the fact that people are not on every website. A lot of these people that make accounts everywhere and try to get you to follow them from site to site make the mistake of thinking that the people who like them on one place are everywhere else as well. Like I watch TYT stuff on YouTube. I'm not gonna like their videos on if they put them on Twitter or Instagram because I don't use either one of those sites for the most part. So that's mainly the reason there of why that mentality of jumping from one site to the other isn't always that fashionable. I think the only people who can do it and have a realistic shot of, I guess, making it otherwise are probably those who have some really enormous following on uh, some other website. Like, I wouldn't try to be an active poster on Twitter unless I had maybe like 100 or 50,000 subs on here. Because again, whenever you go to another website, you can count on diminishing returns where the number of people who support what you're doing is smaller, sometimes cut in half, more than even that. So that's how the computer wars continue to play out. So McConnell is like him and Pelosi really do not get covered the way they should or as often as they should because they do a lot of underhanded crap that no one wants to pay attention to. What else is here? I think that's pretty much it. Let me do this one. This is fun. Afghanistan. Democrats on the House Oversight and Reform Committee are threatening to issue subpoenas if officials from the Pentagon and State Department do not testify at the hearing. I had some verbal diarrhea there. Next month on the administration's Afghanistan strategy. In a Monday letter to Defense Secretary Mark Esper and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, the lawmakers said they are requesting for the final time. That was pretty assertive. They said, we're requesting for the final time that witnesses from both departments testify at the September 9th hearing before the Oversight and Reform Subcommittee on National Security. Should your departments, refuse to appear voluntarily, the subcommittee will have no choice but to receive testimony through compulsory process, they wrote. The letter was signed by committee chairwoman Carolyn Maloney and subcommittee chairman Stephen Lynch, 13 other Democrats on the subcommittee, 15 people. The state and defense departments did not immediately respond to requests for comment from the Hill. Surprise there. I'm really getting sick of them having these stories where they say at the end of it, this person declined to say anything. They did not. They always do that. Like when you have to keep saying it over and over, it's not really. We can just infer from the fact that nothing is there that they didn't respond. You don't have to tell us over and over. I'm gonna do that work with Envoy. He did not show up to my stream last time, and he doesn't show up for another 100 streams. I just keep mentioning at the start of each one. I hope Envoy shows up. It gets redundant after a while. What I find really funny is that they're even expecting an actual Afghanistan strategy. Like, you guys were in. Let's count. They were in Afghanistan for 7 years under Bush 43. It was October of 2001. You were in there for 8 years under Obama, and now you've been under there for 4 years under Trump, or 3 years rather, almost 4 years. What the hell strategy do you think any of these people have? Their strategy is to trick you into thinking that the war is going to be over soon. The way they do this is they say, we're pulling troops out, or we're getting rid of some troops to make you think, oh my God, these are the last days of this war. And then after they stoke you up with rhetoric about how we need to bump up the defense budget to help our men and women overseas, they send some more troops over there. And this yo-yo game goes on for whether they're in office for 4 or 8 years. And then the next clown that comes in office does the exact same thing. And you have a couple of members of Congress that try to, do, like you get a Rand Paul, you get Bernie, and they try to say, hey, let's not do this. And, their stuff gets a couple of votes, but it never is able to pass. Because I remember with the resolution to get out of Yemen, that passed in the House and Senate, and then Trump vetoed it. And that was after 2 or 3 different attempts to get out of that conflict. So we're still bombing babies overseas in a country that never did anything to us. As a veteran, I think the only end game is to perpetuate fear while keeping constant military rotations to keep experience up. I mean, they're able to freak people out all the time. Oh my God, if we don't stay over there, the terrorists are going to get to us. And I don't know when we're going to get troops out of that country. It seems as if this is the never-ending cycle where They go, "Oh, we're so afraid that the troops are there. Let's send some people to go help." And then a year passes, and they take some out, and a few months pass, and they put some back. It's and just just yo-yo. That's all this is. These are the yo-yo wars, the yo-yo banana wars, using that terrorist word. And then remember, the majority of Americans are killed by people in the U.S., homegrown people. As long as civilians and troops are used to and ready for war, then it can be seen as a strategic ace. Well, you know what they do when they're running for re-election? They try to make it seem like they're actually getting something accomplished. So that's when they start talking about we're gonna, in my second term, finally defeat this country that we've been at war with for 2 decades. Perpetuated fear is the exact thing they're doing. And you saw what they did to Tulsi with her just meeting with the president of Syria, Assad, and then they want to freak out and talk about she's endorsing his tenure just for meeting with him. Anytime you meet with some leader of a country that's not an American ally or that is on the terrorist watch list or whatever, in terms of, again, countries, not the people there, but the country's government, they lose their minds. Like when Trump met with Kim Jong Un, oh my God, he's meeting with a dictator. He's validating his tenure when. You guys validate him by talking about him all the time. He's been validated for ever since he took over in, what was that, 2011? And you want to tell me that this one meeting between him and Trump is like the end of the world? It was already the end of the world when nobody was meeting and nothing was changing. Again, they just love freaking people out over everything. Like they tried to freak us out over two people sitting together and talking. That alone should just show you how stupid the Democrats are a lot of times. Perpetual fear. Stay at home. Don't even move. The virus will get you. Well, with that, it's a little bit different in the sense that it's a contagious disease that is deadly, and that people are spreading. So it's a little bit harder for me to not justify. Like I'd rather people be worried about it than do what a lot of these other people are doing, where they're like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's just this thing that it's going to go away eventually." It wasn't that big of a deal. 180,000 people wouldn't have died, and that's what really drives me crazy about this. You have 2,000 people die, a little bit, well, between 2,000 to 300,000 people, 300,000, 2,000 to 3,000 people died during 9/11. And all this, oh my God, we need to do something. This was crazy. Worst thing ever that happened to the US. But then 180,000 people died with this virus, which is what, 36 times the number of people that died in 9/11, or some just astronomical large number of people. And like you actually have individuals who can, with a straight face, say, "We're blowing this out of proportion. That this isn't that big of a deal." So I said I live in the twilight zone where you can have 2,000 people die, and people get freaked out, and then 180,000 people die, and they're just like, "Well, whatever." I think that's nuts. My uncle died from coronavirus with no underlying conditions, though he was older. My fear isn't how deadly per se the virus is, how unpredictable people react to it. Um, I mean, I guess people's reactions is something to be concerned about. I just personally am really tired of seeing those that try to make it seem like it's not what it actually is. Like you have a lot of people who are saying we should just open things back up. And then we get these stories about how at Liberty University, you had people who were getting infected when school started. It's just, a lot of people are trying to not look at it the way it should be. This is insane. I mean, by the logic of what you wrote, Envoy, then the 9/11 reaction doesn't make sense because 2,000 is more than 1,000, which would then make it a statistic, but they still reacted as if it was a tragedy. Now the number is way higher of people who died from the virus, and they're not really treating it as seriously in some cases as they should. I think somebody just came over here. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'll get back to speaking on this in a moment. Let me just look at this thing. Oh, damn it. Well, I'll try to wrap this up quickly because I got some crap that's happened. Um, President Trump late Sunday repeatedly attacked Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden ahead of the former vice president's campaign trip to Western Pennsylvania on Monday, claiming he wasn't doing enough to address the unrest in U.S. cities. Joe Biden is coming out of the basement earlier than his than his hoped for 10 days because his people told him he has no choice. Trump claimed a series of tweets in which he called Biden weak on crime and said he had no choice due to liberal voters. When is slow Joe Biden going to criticize the anarchist thugs and agitators in Antifa? Trump asked. When is he going to suggest bringing up the National Guard in badly run and crime infested Democrat cities and states? Remember, he can't lose the crazy Bernie super liberal vote. What the Oh, I would love for someone to just take all these tweets and put them up in their room and screenshot it. Slow Joe sounds like a mental patient. Oh yeah, people are using the virus to attack each other with. Like it was crazy because Trump was saying that Democrats were trying to make it seem as if he could do more than he actually could with the virus. But then he gave a speech last week where he accused them of using the virus, like controlling the virus to help steal the election. So they both have used it to attack each other. No, I just think it's funny because I'm supposedly part of the crazy Bernie super liberal vote, and I have no problem with him condemning rioters or thugs or anarchists or agitators or any of those people. I still wouldn't vote for him because of other things he's done. But that certainly is not one of the reasons that would make me just say to hell with Biden. It's funny because it's he's trying to describe the voting block I'm in, but then I would be completely like not offended by him doing the thing that Biden supposedly wants to do but cannot do to get my oh that's like a three-dimensional chess where he's supposed to be doing this thing to get my vote, but I don't want him to do that thing to get my vote. And if he does the opposite, I would like him more, but still wouldn't vote for him anyway. And oh, this is these damn tweets. I don't even. Also, for some reason, a lot of Republicans don't like to say Democratic, which is the name of the Democratic Party. He says badly run and crime infested Democrat cities and states instead of democratic cities and states. Because Democrat is supposed to be a singular term, or if you say Democrats, then it's plural. But when you say Democrat City, it's again, it's just a minor like nitpicky thing that I thought was funny. The Democrat City. Imagine that was actually like a town, a city's name, the Democrat City, and all the buildings are painted blue. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it here. I've gone on for what is that, 5 or 6 different stories. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Um, I appreciate the watch and have a good day. And hope you enjoyed this stream. I'll try to put up some edited video tomorrow.